And welcome everyone, we should be live. It is nearly 10 p.m. in London. I'm gonna give it a second until I can see that you are indeed in the chat. Let me know that you can hear me properly. We are live from Fleet Street in London. It's absolutely freezing in London these days. Although it is a little bit warmer than it was this morning. Let me know that you can hear me. Perfect, thank you Tish. If anyone was completely new to me, if you've just clicked on this live, you don't know what you've clicked on, we've got about 9 minutes before to go. We're waiting for everyone to get here. So we've got about 9 minutes. If you're watching a replay in the next few days or months, you can skip the next 8 minutes now to go straight into the walking tour. And welcome Ronnie, welcome Catherine, welcome Linda. Hi again Trish and Tish. Hi Pauline, and welcome. Happy New Year everyone. Right, you probably know the drill already. We're gonna have to test the microphone. I'll tap it 3 times. You let me know if you've heard the tapping. It's a bit of a noisy street, so you might still hear some cars in the background, but you should be able to hear the tapping. If at any point through the tour the sound goes a bit funny, let me know. It could be the microphone getting disconnected. You've heard it, perfect. Thank you very much. And also for my regulars, if you notice any difference in the shakiness of the video today, let me know. I've got a new gimbal, well new, second-hand gimbal, but they've sent me the wrong one. Welcome Anne-Catherine. It's literally not, it's not the one I ordered, but it's gonna cost me more to swap it to the one I actually ordered rather than keeping this one. So I'm gonna see whether I should keep this or not. So if you see any difference in the stability of the video, do let me know. And we still have a few minutes before to go. Let me see, we've got 7 minutes. It's the same make, it's still Osmo DJI, but what happened is I ordered an Osmo DJI Mobile 3 axis, and they sent me an Osmo Digital Mobile SE 3 axis. So there's a 3 in there, but it's not the number 3 model. So yeah. Let me see what I've missed. And let's see what time it is. So we've got 6 minutes before to start. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. And then we'll go for a little dark walk in Fleet Street. It is quite late in London. It is just a few minutes before 10 p.m. I purposely scheduled this tour quite late because it can get a little bit busy around here at daytime. Well, not so much on a weekend because we are in the city of London. Hi Martin. And Linda is here as well. Well, Linda B. Welcome. Sorry, why am I not on the... For some reason I'm not on the latest comment. There we go. And Chas is here as well. Welcome everyone that might be new to me. I'm Nathalie. And we'll be making a move in a few minutes. Exactly, the Hellfest began. So most of you know the drill already, but obviously this is a live, so you can interact in the chat, ask me any questions. I might know or I might not know, but I'll try. I might see the questions or I might not, because sometimes it goes a bit too quick for me as well. And also, if you happen to be watching this on replay in the next few months, because it is a live, I am subject to the gods of the internet. So if you have some micro cuts watching the replay, it could be that the signal dropped for a second or two. It happens. And welcome everyone that just joined. We still have about 4 minutes before to officially kick off. We're going for a live walk in London. You might be able to see, you might see the smoke coming out of my mouth. It's quite cold in London this day. And welcome Writer Direct. No Jack the Ripper scheduled yet, but I should schedule it soon. And welcome Jamo. Nice to see you here. So we still have a few minutes before to start. So we are on Fleet Street. Oh, thanks, Natasha. Oh, you turned 40 on the 40th. When did I'm confused? When did you turn 40? Well, happy birthday anyway. I shouldn't be asking you any questions, Natasha, because I know I cannot see your answers. I don't know why. I don't know why you have to tip for me to see the message. It's very odd. It doesn't happen to anyone else. So I guess I shouldn't ask you any questions because I wouldn't see the answers. But I hope you had a fantastic birthday anyway. Right, let's see what time it is. We've got 3 minutes before it's officially time to go. It's very cold, but somehow I feel like it's a little bit better than it was this morning. This morning was freezing. I had a job at 9 a.m. We were absolutely freezing outside. Oh yeah, I'm dressed warmly. I've got two pairs of everything. 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of trousers, two jumpers. It's only my fingers that will be frozen in a moment because I can never really function well with gloves, when I have to operate the gimbal and everything. But my body should be all right. I don't know if I like this gimbal. It feels much more fragile somehow. Well, I think it is, to be honest. It's a newer one, but it's actually a more a cheaper one. Well, not it was cheaper to me, but it's supposed to be cheaper. But hey ho. Oh, December 30th. Okay, thanks, Natasha. Oh, it's probably not the best time to have your birthday because everyone is ready to celebrate New Year's and stuff, so they might forget about your birthday. I hope they don't. The case of the trembling gimbal, indeed. Hopefully it'll be decent. We'll see. I think my other one is probably still working, but I think it's a bit temperamental with the cold. But once the weather gets a bit warmer, hopefully it'll work again. My other one. It's been a bit temperamental since. You might remember one day when I did a live in Marseille. The gimbal overheat. It was like boiling that day, and since that day it's been a bit behaving a bit funny. So that's why I needed a new one. Anyway, let's check the timing. It is 10 p.m. It is officially time to start. So without any further ado, let's flip this camera around and let's go for a little live walk on Fleet Street. I was standing in front of a shop. If you were a lawyer over here, you could come down here to buy your little wings and gowns. Sorry. Because we are on Fleet Street, so you've got the Royal Court of Justice a little bit further down. But for now, let's look at a haunted pub. The Ye Olde Cock Tavern. So that's a very decent pub. It's a Green King. We've got those. Oh, I don't like this gimbal. I'm gonna change it. We've got some brewers that have their chains of pub. So if you come to a Green King, you'll probably have a pint from the Green King brewery. It also used to be a gin palace, as you might be able to see. It's quite an old pub. It dates back to 1549, although this is not the original building. The original was on the other side. And guess what? They've got a ghost. The ghost story here started in the 80s, so it's not as old as it sometimes is, you know. Very often the ghost stories we've got, they date back to Victorian times and stuff. This one is a bit younger. In the 80s, there was a young bartender that was from Australia. She went down to the back to take the rubbish out, so she had a large bin bag with her, and she was heard screaming and screaming. So the landlady, Sarah Kennedy, ran to assist the young barmaid, and the young girl was like, "I've seen a head, I've seen a floating head." Sarah Kennedy was like, "Okay, you go upstairs, you relax upstairs, come back down when you're ready, just go and relax." So the barmaid went up to relax. And a few minutes later, the landlady, Sarah Kennedy, she heard again screaming from above. So she ran up to go and see the young girl. She was staring at a portrait. She had spotted a painting on the wall, and she was like, "That's him! That's him! That's the head I've seen." And that was a portrait of Oliver Goldsmith. So the playwright is actually buried at the back. I like to believe all those ghost stories, and I like to tell them to you. But I know at least 3 ghost stories around here with a story of a portrait, someone that recognizes the ghost on a portrait. So sometimes you start to wonder, did they really all happen, or was it just that they got confused over the years? Who knows? But whichever, it's probably haunted. Oliver Goldsmith is buried at the back in the graveyard of the Temple's Church. Now this is the Barclays Bank little sign up there, but let me show you another one. Barclays used to be called Goisling, and you can see the logo up there, so they kept the old logo. You might be able to see it's 3 little squirrels. Squirrels are often a symbol of banking, of course, because they squirrel their nuts away. You know, when you give them a nut, they often bury them for later, and sometimes they forget where they've buried them. That's why they're great at spreading the seeds and everything. Hi Nikki, nice to see you here. And welcome Emma, nice to see you all here. Let's go and take a look at this beautiful building here. Up there, that's the Prince Henry's room. Prince Henry, that was the son of James I. You know, we tend to forget because of course the next king was Charles I, the one that was famously beheaded. But Charles was not actually the heir. He had an older brother, Henry, that died young, so he never ruled. He had his little office up there. And the entrance itself down here, that is the entrance to the Temple's Church. So that was the headquarters, the headquarters of the Knight Templars. The Knight Templars, you might have heard of them. They were literally warrior monks. They were monks, but they were great fighters. They went for the Crusades and stuff, and they were extremely rich. As monks, they had swum to poverty, yet they were extremely rich. They became almost like one of the first international corporation, really. And actually they became too rich because people used to give the Templars anything, you know. It could be a bag of apple, or it could be land, or they'll give them anything. And eventually they became too rich that a lot of the kings became jealous, especially the King of France. And they were arrested. A lot of them were tortured, and they confessed to any random crimes. They were accused of homosexuality. They were accused of worshipping a mysterious head. Hi Diane, and welcome everyone else. The head, that could be the head of John the Baptist. Some people, that would be the religion, Johanism. Or some people even believed that they might have secretly converted to Islam. We'll never know whether they were really guilty of much. But, you know, when you are being... I just said the T word. I shouldn't say the T word on YouTube. They don't like it, the algorithm. But when you are being mistreated to get any confessions, sometimes you confess of any random crimes. Anyway, today we'll see both sides of the street. So we'll talk a bit in a moment about what we see on the other side, which is the Royal Court of Justice. For now, let me show you the entrance to the inner temple. You know, when you become a lawyer in this country, you have to belong to an inn of court. It's a bit like sorting hats in Harry Potter. So you've got Middle Temple, you've got Lincoln's Inn, you've got Inner Temple Inn and Gray's Inn as well. So this is the little logo up there. Let me show you the logo. So that's the little logo of the Inner Temple's Inns of Court. 1684. And guess what? It is haunted. There's a little lane in the back behind the door there that is meant to be haunted by the ghost of the hanging judge. He was a Victorian judge that was a bit too let's say a bit too keen on the death penalty. Hawkins was his last name. He's said to be haunting the back. And also there's a little hall, Inner Temple's Hall, that is it's a beautiful place. Apparently when they did some refurbishment in Victorian times, they found a little bricked up area where they found a box with a skeleton inside. We still don't know to this day who the body was really. Now let me show you the site of another pub. It is the Devil's Tavern, demolished in 1787. It's a pub I haven't been able to visit, of course, but it sounds like a good place to go. Sadly, it was demolished exactly 200 years before I was born, so I didn't go, but it's been visited by quite a few famous names. Like Dr. Johnson and stuff like that. Right, let's keep going. So Fleet Street was the street of the press. Today we do not have any more newspapers settled here, but back in the day they were all down here. Because it is the street that goes down from the city of Westminster to the city of London, really. Now, we've just actually crossed over. We're no longer on Fleet Street. We are now on the Strand. And we've actually just exited the City of London. This is the Temple Bar here. Today it is a bar, but they used to have an actual gate. And you see a dragon up there. Some people call it a griffin. It's not a griffin, it's a dragon. That's the protector of the City of London. So when you see the front of a dragon, you are entering the city. When you see the bums of a dragon, you're leaving the city. Oh, I don't like this gimbal, I'm gonna change it. And this is Queen Victoria down here. At the time when it was a gate, they used to place some heads up there. We had we had some heads on the London Bridge at some point. You know, the heads that were beheaded at the Tower of London mainly. Eventually, they moved the heads down here when it was a proper gate. The gate was removed because in Victorian times, you know, they had those omnibuses. They were horse-drawn carriages. but they were too big to come under the gate, so that's why they moved it. But at the time of the gate, when they had those rotting heads, there was a guy down here apparently in the 1600s that had a telescope, and would you believe it charged you a penny? So then you could use his telescope to zoom in on the rotting heads to see the pigeons picking on them and stuff. So quite a disgusting sight, really. Anyway, let me show you the site of a former club. You know, in the 18th century, you had clubs for everything. You had clubs like today, we've got Facebook groups. You had clubs for people that like, well, anything really. Today we could have Facebook groups for people that like sunbathing naked, or people that like collecting coins or whatever. Well, at the time they had clubs for that. They even had a farting club, would you believe? Yes, you've heard this right, a farting club. Club for lawyers as well as journalists. Actually, that's part of the reason why it closed down, because eventually at the beginning of the year 2000, all the journalists went away. And let me show you, a lot of you have done this tour with me before. You might be disappointed, they've removed the old sign. It used to say the Wigs on Pen down here as well. This building has been since many different establishments. We had some lawyers a couple of years ago. We had a Thai restaurant as well, a cafe. It looks like it's now a noodles bar, but they've decided to remove the old Wigs on Pen sign here to put their own sign. Why not? You know, time change. But since I've been doing these tours, every time we come here, it's a different establishment. So it's Noodles Nova now. Right, let's go down to Twinings. You love noodles? Yes, so do I, so do I. So there's another shop down here, a shop that doesn't change. It is Twinings, the tea. It actually used to be a coffee house before it became a tea shop. The coffee houses, they were for men. Men would come and discuss politics and everything, and ladies were not actually allowed in the coffee houses. And when Twinings, so Thomas Twinings, started to sell tea, a lot of ladies wanted to come and buy the tea. They were actually selling more dry tea than serving hot tea. And so eventually they had to make it a shop. They also still have their beautiful logo down here, as well as at the top up there. This Twinings logo there, that's the oldest logo still in its original position. And what you see in the middle, so that's a royal warrant there. So to get that, you'd have to be supplying Buckingham Palace for at least 5 years. Oh, I don't like this gimbal. Sorry, I'm gonna keep saying that, but it's moving all over. Yeah, to get that, you'd have to be supplying Buckingham Palace at least 5 years out of the last 7 years, and it's a great seal of approval, of course. And the golden lion at the top, that's because when it was, the time when it was a coffee house, it was called the Golden Lion. And the two little guys, those are the tea traders. So that's a lovely little shop. I've not been inside for many years. Apparently Jane Austen used to come and buy some tea in there for her mother. I don't know whether they still do, but they used to have a tip jar. Tip was spelled T.I.P.S. because they claimed, some people claim that tip is short for to ensure prompt services. And so some people think that's what it's not. It's actually very much debatable, but hey ho. Right, this is another cool pub. This is the George. It's quite a good looking pub, and we've got that's probably George III up there. Now, guess what? It is haunted as well. I'll show you a bit of the inside. The stuff is closing. They're probably closing now. And let me cross over so I'll show you from the distance. So yeah, it is haunted. The ghost story here came out in the in the 70s, really. What happened is they were doing some refurbishment and they were repainting the basement. So there's a builder or a worker that went downstairs, and he comes back 20 minutes later. He's all white. So the landlord was like, "You okay, mate? You look like you've seen a ghost or something. You're all white." And the guy was like, "No, it's fine, it's fine. It's just there was this bloke downstairs staring at me. He was just staring at me. The guy dressed like in a period drama or something." And the landlord was like, "What? Who was staring at you?" "The guy down there looking like an old knight or something." And then the landlord was like, "Oh, don't worry, that's the ghost. My wife sees him all the time. We call him George." So apparently they have a nice ghost. Now, let me show you a very interesting toilet. Yes, you've heard this right, a public toilet. I've never actually been to the loo in there. I always go into the loo, into the pubs. I don't look for public toilets. I'm a bit shameless. I go straight into the pubs. But look, this one has been the winner of the City of Westminster Loo of the Year Award. Wow. If you are interested into the Loo of the Year Award, I've actually Googled it recently, and guess what? The winner for 2026 is being published soon. It's going to be published on the 14th of January. So if you want to know about the best loos in the UK, check on 14th of January. I've checked the list of winners. It's actually a lot of Wetherspoons pubs. To be fair, the Wetherspoons pubs often have some nice loos. Sometimes they're quite vast, let's say. You can sit in there, they have sofas and stuff in the loos. If any of you are from the other side of the pond and you don't call it the loos, we are indeed talking about the toilets. Right, lovely. We don't see much of him because he's not well lit, but this is Dr. Samuel Johnson. I've very casually called him doctor. He wasn't actually, he didn't really graduate as a doctor. He went to school in Oxford, and after writing the first English dictionary, well, it wasn't really the first, but because they had tried to do one in Tudor times. But after writing the dictionary, he went back to Oxford and he was like, "Hey, can I collect my degree now?" But he didn't actually finish. He didn't actually graduate from uni. We'll talk about Dr. Samuel Johnson in a little bit more details in a moment, because we'll go and see where he used to live. What does the award look like, Ronnie? I don't know. I didn't see any. That'd be nice if it'd be like a golden laurel or something. But I've not actually seen the trophy. Would have to check on their website. And you know what? I'm not even sure it's the same award, because this is the UK one I've Googled, when this one says the City of Westminster Loo of the Year. So I don't know if they work together or if they are two different Loo of the Year awards. Maybe they are. Or they might have subdivisions. You might have the City of Westminster, you might have Greater London, you might have Sussex, Essex, and so on. I don't know. I'd rather find the UK one. Maybe we can go and visit them one day. We can have a loo tour, going to the best loo of the UK. Anyway, see, we've got some. So this is St. Clement's Day in the church, and we still have some bomb impact from the Second World War. So that's we decided to keep them here as a little memento, really. Anyway, let's leave Dr. Samuel Johnson to take a look at the Royal Court of Justice. So it's a beautiful building. It's neo-Gothic. It was completed in 1882. So it's not as old as it looks. It is Victorian. The Victorians, they used to love to reproduce some Gothic style. And if you happen to be a skater boy, you cannot come down here to do the figures. You know, when you see those things here, it's not for the homelesses not to sleep on it. It's because they don't want the skater boys or the skater girls to come and do figures on the benches. Now, the Royal Court of Justice, before it was built, It used to be a sordid little maze with a lot of little alleyways that were very dark at night. So dark that, well, if you wanted to find your way, you had to pay a little boy with a lantern, to take you around. There's a very vague story. It's not very well documented, but apparently it is said that one day there's a guy that refused to pay for a little boy, and he was never seen again. And it is so the Royal Court of Justice. You can come and see a trial. It is open to the public. You don't even have to be British. Even if you were a tourist, technically you can go. If you want to see the British justice system at work, you can go inside. It can be a little bit intimidating. I've done it before, so you've got to go through security, like at the airport, really. I've done it only once. I was with my sister because she'd come to London quite a few times. She's already visited all the touristy stuff. So she was like, what are we going to do? And I was like, well, I don't know. Do you want to go and see a trial? And, oh, thanks, Ronnie. That's very much appreciated. And thanks anyone else that would tip me on PayPal and buy me a coffee as well. I don't see them live, but that's very much appreciated. So we got in there and I went straight to the lady and I was like, are there any good cases on today? And the lady was like, all the cases are good over here. But if you want the criminal court, you want to go to the right. So we went to the right. It was actually COVID time. And I remember one lady was like, no, you cannot get into this one. It's too busy. And I was like, well, if it's busy, it's a good one. So we got in there anyway. It can be very confusing. So it's quite cool to see the lawyers with their little wigs on, the judges as well. Apparently, if they forget to put their wigs on, the judge would go, I cannot hear you. I cannot hear that. And the moment they put it on, the show is starting. It's quite interesting. We were in there like 10 a.m. in the morning, so we saw the beginning, but it wasn't the first day of the trial, and we don't get like a synopsis or anything. So it was actually very difficult to understand what it was all about, because they didn't really tell us again what the crime was, because they would have dealt with that the days before, All I knew is that it was a young man from the gypsy community, because his lawyer kept insisting that he was from the gypsy community, and he had buried something. No idea what. Not a body, because they were talking about maybe early release and stuff, so not a body, but I don't know, money, guns, drugs, anything really. And then we left, we went to another trial. I found it very boring, but little did I know, I realized later on that it was actually connected to Yvonne Fletcher, the Iranian siege in the 80s. We only stayed for a few minutes into that one. I would like to go again. Anyway, down this side, so we are on the other side of the Temple Bar. This is Edward VII down here. So you've got his mum on the other side, and Edward is here. Now, let's go and take a little look at Belliard. Let me know in the chat if you are all familiar with the story of Sweeney Todd. Is there anyone that has never seen any of the musicals or any of the movies? They're not all musicals. So we are now on Belliard. This is where Miss Lovett has her famous pie shop, where she bakes the best pies in London with human meat. Human meat that have been coming down the basement from a barber next door. You love Sweeney Todd? Nice. So it is a fictional story. Well, we'll debate that in a moment. But officially it's a fictional story. There might have been some murderous barber somewhere, but the story of Sweeney Todd here on Fleet Street, it is definitely fictional. And let's look at the letterbox, E2R. So this one is not too old. Anyway, so Miss Lovett's pie shop was down here in the fiction. When we talk about the pie shops, at the time the pie shops, they were like the pret-a-mangers today. They were everywhere. They were kind of like the most common street food at the time, you know. A lot of people didn't have kitchens in their lodgings, so they'll pop into the pie shop, you know, to have those meat pies. And inside you'd have any type of meat, really. Most of the time they didn't know which meat, a lot of rabbit or hare and stuff like that. This pub here, it's quite a cool pub as well. It's the Old Bank of England. As you might have guessed from its name, it used to be part of the Bank of England. It's a cool pub to visit inside because they still have a lot of memorabilia from banks. Well, they have a few Monopoly items as well because we are on Fleet Street, which is on the Monopoly board. And they also have a Barber chair. So if you want to sit on a chair and pretend to be a victim of Sweeney Todd. Apparently they still have in the basement some safes from the old bank time. Anyway, back to Sweeney. So Miss Lovett has a pie shop where she bakes those pies. Oh, thanks, Linda. That's very much appreciated. And the story is a little bit different from the original story that was published in 1846 compared to the shouldn't cross, but let's go, compared to the musicals later on. In the musicals, Sweeney is often a sympathical villain. You know, they gave him an excuse to want a revenge. You know, in the musical, he's been convicted of a crime he never committed, and he was sent to Australia and he's coming back. In the original story, he's just evil. In the original story, Miss Lovett on Sweeney, they don't have any type of love affair. They do in the musical, but they're just business partners in the original story. In the original story, Sweeney is not even the main character of the story. And Joanna, in the musical, it's his daughter. In the original story, Joanna is just a girl. She likes to dress up as a boy to come and investigate. The original story was called The String of Pearls because there was a character coming back from the army that was bringing some pearls to a girl, Joanna, because her boyfriend or fiancé or whatever it was presumed dead, I guess. And so Sweeney kills that guy and he ends up stealing the pearls, and so that's why The String of Pearls. And anyway, this is Sanduston in the west, the church over here. In the original story, some of the bodies are being dropped into the crypt, so people cannot go to church anymore because it's way too smelly. Now let me show you an old fountain. That's an old one from 1860, the fountain. Not that I like to remember the date of every single fountains in London. It's just that it's written down here at the bottom. So that's how I know. Now, Sanduston in the... what did I just say? In the west. We've got Sanduston in the east as well, on the other side of the city. But Sanduston in the east, it's been bombed through the Second World War. Now it's a lovely place for Instagram, but it's no longer a running church. This is Sanduston in the west. And if you see up there, it's hard to see on camera, but you've got two giants ringing the bells. Those are Gog and Magog. They are some pre-Roman gods, giants. And down here, this is Queen Elizabeth I. We don't have many statues of her, but there she is. And actually, she's got a rival down the street. We've got a statue of Mary Queen of Scots down the street. I'll show you later on if I don't forget. And you can see some traces, the Dundee Courier and People's Journal. So you can see some traces of the Street of Ink. Now let's go and see number 186. So this is the spot where the fictional barber shop would have been. And the funny looking thing in the middle, that's a printing press. So the original story was a penny dreadful. The penny dreadful, they were very new, cheap literature. they suddenly it was much cheaper to print, so they were printing those stories called Penny Dreadful or Penny Blood. Let's go down the little court. They were very often inspired by real events, but they were most of the time fictional. And people would read them on a train, people would read them anywhere, you'd buy them from the street sellers, and a lot of kids used to read them as well, which is a bit sad because some kids became very accustomed to violence because of those Penny Dreadfuls. And they were a very new, cheap type of literature. So literature became more accessible to many people. And now, the big question is, was Sweeney Todd inspired by an actual person? Some people believe that yes, maybe. Actually, there is some references to the case of a barber just here off Fleet Street in the 1780s that did commit murder. He did kill a customer, not for cannibalism or anything of the sort. What had happened is the customer was, it is said, on liquor. So he was pissed, basically. And the customer was bragging about having met a young girl that, let's say, pleased him sexually. And the barber realized or imagined that he was talking about his wife. The barber had been very jealous of his wife in the last few weeks, and he was convinced that the drunken customer was talking about his wife, so he slit his throat. This is probably a true story because it was in the annual register, so that probably happened. It might have inspired the story. The story of the Penny Dreadful, so although it was published in the 1840s, it was set in the 1780s. So it was set in a former time period. That is probably because, in the 1800s, people were hanged, but not for any crimes anymore. You'd have to commit a proper crime to go to the gallows. When in the 18th century, you could be hanged for anything. You could be hanged for stealing a string of pearls, so you might as well kill. So that's that's one of the stories that may have inspired Sweeney Todd. The truth is, there had been many other publications about a barber killing its victim. Actually, there was a reference of human meat into pies into a Dickens as well. The character Tom Pinch in Mr. Chuzzlewit, I think it was. And if Sweeney Todd existed, or a barber like that, it might not have been in London. There's actually far more evidence that it might have been in France. But, well, I say evidence. It's not even evidence, really. There was a Swedish sailor that stopped in Calais in the 16th century, and he published his diaries later on, and he claimed that we don't even know whether he had heard at the pub or if he read in the news or somewhere, but that there had been in France a barber killing his customers. Not all of them, but the one that wouldn't be missed, the one that were strangers, or and that he would work with a baker, a gentleman, a man, not a lady, baking them into pies. So that's one story. There's also another, what sounds like a very credible guy, because he was like the Ministry of Police or something like that. So it sounds credible, but there's actually no evidence. The guy was called Joseph Fouche in Paris as well. He claims that in the 1800 exactly, there was a barber on Rue de la Harpe in Paris that had done exactly that, baked his customers into pies. and worked with a baker and stuff. So, but the thing is, he only published it many years later, and there's no actual evidence. Even if the guy worked for the police in France, it's just a guy saying stuff. So there's no evidence really. But some people believe that there have been such Barber in Paris. The truth is, that was a very common fear in Victorian times because, you know, in Victorian times, a lot of people moved into the capital because of the industrial revolution, and suddenly people didn't know their barbers or they didn't know their bakers anymore because of the big city life, you know. So people started to be worried that they might be fed some horrible stuff, you know. Sausages at the time used to be called bags of mystery, and it's not very different from today, really. You might remember the horse meat scandal a few years ago in Europe, so we still don't really know what we're eating today. Anyway, let me take you down Red Lion's Court. I've got nothing to tell you about Red Lion's Court, but back in the day, there used to be a little court down here. We can see we're in the city of London, by the way. When you see those red stars on a white background, that's the city of London. And we also have the little dragons down here. Yeah, back in the day, there was a little court here, just meters away, called Fleur de Lys Court. It's gone today, but Fleur de Lys Court was sadly the site of a terrible manslaughter and scam, a Georgian scam. In the 1700s, 1767 to be precise, there was a lady here. She worked as a midwife. She worked helping ladies giving birth and stuff in the Foundling Hospital and stuff like that. The Foundling Hospital, that was not really a hospital. It was the first one of the first charities for kids that were in need. Cecile, I don't think it was a mistake originally. I think they wanted to get rid of the horses. You know, they were putting lasagnas and stuff all over Europe. And so the lady worked as a midwife. Her husband was a painter, and at that time you had a scheme organized by the parish. Some kids, extremely poor kids or some orphans, could sometimes be given to a family or to a couple as an apprentice. Now, that was a system that was very badly controlled and organized. The thing is, they were meant to be given into a whatever shop it might be, you know, a hatter or a locksmith or whatever it might be, to be taught a trade. And this way, once they grow up, they can already be trained and start their own shop, or you know. The thing is, the parish would help the employer with a bit of money to feed the kids, to buy stuff for them. There was a trial period, about a month, to see whether the child was good for the business, and the other way around. But after that, you were bonded with a contract. Now, Mrs. Brownwing, she was fine for a month, so the kids would stay, and she actually was very, very badly treating them, abusing them big time. The first girl, she actually managed to escape, so she had 3 girls. The 3 of them were called Mary. Mary number 1, she escaped. Mary number 2, she was very, very brutally mistreated. She was bit. One of them even had her tongue cut out. One of the mothers actually wanted to come and visit their little Mary, but Mrs. Brownwing couldn't let them see Mary because she had no tongue anymore. Mary number 2, she tried to escape. I mean, when I say badly treated, she had lost her eyesight in one eye because of the violence she was subjected to. And so she escaped, and she actually ran back to the Foundling Hospital, complaining about the mistreatment. Guess what they did? The Foundling Hospital sent a letter to Mr. Brownwing asking what happened. He never replied, and they let it go. Then they gave them another girl, Mary. This is crazy. How many? I mean, you know, because they are respectable people, you know, actually, some of the neighbors could see from above a little girl, very, very, very badly treated. Sadly, the third little Mary passed away. That's when eventually Elizabeth Bronwyn, she ran away, but she was caught eventually and hanged. So horrible case of abuse, and also, well, it was abuse on a crime as well as a scam, because they would get the money from the parish, to allegedly train those kids when really they were using them as slaves. It's as simple as that. It's quite similar to a story we mentioned the other day, when we did the Christmas Murders tour. We talked about little Anne Naylor in Farringdon. Well, quite similar, I'm afraid. So they were not isolated cases. It happened quite regularly, sadly. Anyway, we are back on Fleet Street, and we'll go down to see where Dr. Johnson used to live. So Samuel Johnson, he little known fact about him, he potentially suffered from Tourette's syndrome. He had some verbal tics and physical ones as well. Of course, the syndromes was not. It wasn't diagnosed yet. It was the syndrome was named much later on in the 19th century in France. It was Georges Gilles de la Tourette that described the symptom. You might remember we saw his grave when I took you to Loudon in France a couple of years ago now. Anyway, so Johnson probably suffered from Tourette's as well as OCD. He had some physical talks. Sometimes when he came into an alleyway like this one, he had to put always the same feet first, and so he had some obsessional behaviors as well. Anyway, he was asked to write the first English dictionary, and he was asked how long he would need to do so. To give you an idea, they had already written a French dictionary that took the French Academy 40 years to write. And Johnson said 3 years. It actually took him 9 years. Still quite remarkable. But they paid him in one go. So then he was actually out of money, and his eyesight was really bad. So he used to, at night, when they were writing, they had to use a candle. So he used to burn his wigs, because if you get down too close to the papers, you get your hair burn. And I'm just gonna check if cool, because sometimes there's a homeless guy that sleeps here, but he wasn't here earlier because I don't want to wake him, and he's not here tonight. And yes, so Johnson lived down here in a little square called Goethe Square. There's another gentleman that lived here at some point when he was a student at St. Thomas's Hospital. It is Thomas Neil Cream. So I'm getting a bit distracted because I see my gimbal is telling me it's out of battery. So I'm definitely taking it down to the shop tomorrow. First, it's not the one I bought, but the battery doesn't even last for an hour. Anyway, I'll have to pay the difference, but buy the one I originally bought. Anyway, so this is the Dr. Johnson's house. So that's where he used to live. It's a little museum today. It's I've never actually been inside. I really should. It's a partner of the National Trust, so you can go and visit. Now, Thomas Neil Cream, the other guy that lived here, I'm sure a lot of you remember who he was. He's the serial killer that was targeting sex workers with pills. He was a doctor, and he was giving them strychnine into pills. Although he wasn't an active serial killer yet when he lived here. Well, he might have been, but not in London. He had killed a few in the US, but although we never know. With serial killers, they can always have many more victims we don't know about. But yeah, he lived here at some point. Oh, thanks, Diane. Thank you. Right, let me get my torch, because some of you are gonna want to see this one. You can probably see him already. It is Snoopy. So you've got two of your favorite animals down here, but I need some light. Bear with me. There we go. There is Snoopy. So some of you might already know we've got a little trail with different Snoopies painted by different artists all over Fleet Street district, let's say. It's organized by the Fleet Street BID. BID is Business Improvement District. So a lot of the local businesses are giving a little commission to the BID, and they organize this type of events or exhibition or whatever it might be, to bring people down to the area and spend some money in the local businesses, like bars and restaurants or hairdresser, who knows. The hairdressers back in Victorian times, people would pop in there into the barbers twice a week for a shave, So they were probably, it's not like today when I make an appointment and get to the barber. Back in the day, they were very busy places. A lot of people didn't shave at home. They'll go down to the barber. Anyway, so this is Snoopy. Now there's another little animal. What is the name of the serial killer? Laurie is asking. Thomas Neil Cream. We talked about him in Lambeth. I did a full tour about him. Thomas Neil Cream. Oh, thank you, Tish. Right, cool. Let me get my second phone, because you're gonna need to listen to Hodge. I'm getting a bit worried about the battery for the gimbal, but hopefully it will last another 15 minutes. We don't have much longer. Right, apologies, this is going to take a sec because my fingers are a bit frozen. Right, we've got a little cat here. I'll let him in a sec. And guess what? He talks. Let me play Hodge.
Hello, and meow.
Good of you.
Good of you to call by. I don't mind if you stare at me. Take a good look at me. Examine my expression. I am justifiably proud. I preside in Gough Square in all my glory. Let me tell you about myself. I'll try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation, if you have just a minute to spare. I am Hodge, perhaps the most famous cat that ever lived. Not only is there a statue in my honor, I'm also the subject of poems and plays and epitaphs. I am quite the feline celebrity. In the 1760s, I resided here with my esteemed owner, Dr. Samuel Johnson, that great man of letters. His masterpiece, Johnson's Dictionary, on which I am sitting, was universally acclaimed. My favorite word, cat, is defined as a domestic animal that catches mice. Actually, I much prefer shellfish. Each afternoon, Dr. Johnson would pause from his writing to go out and buy me a plate of fresh oysters. This devotion was noted with some irritation by Dr. Johnson's friend and biographer, James Boswell. He wrote that I was treated with great indulgence. But then, Boswell was never a cat lover. Indeed, he wrote how he suffered a good deal in my presence. I can only say the distaste was mutual. I always made a special point of twining myself among Boswell's legs, as if affectionately, so I could get hairs on his trousers. Cats do that, you know. Upon my death, the poets mourned me. Elegies were written. Hundreds of years later, Samuel Beckett cast me in one of his plays. My fame even spread to America, where Vladimir Nabokov included me in an epitaph. But what care I for these strangers? What matters is that Dr. Johnson thought me a very, very fine cat indeed. Now there's something to purr about. Meow.
Meow. Right, let me put this phone away. They put a little tie on Hodge. He looks a bit, with the tie, he looks a bit like Bob, Bob the street cat that's in Angel. We've not been to Angel for a while. We should go back to Angel as well. I'll be scheduling some new tours this week. Anyway, this is the ye olde Cheshire cheese. This is, according to me, the oldest pub in London. It's very hard to know which is the oldest pub in London because some pubs have some very old pub licenses, but they've moved. Like the ye olde Cock Tavern earlier, it's moved, Some pubs are very old, but they've redone all the interior and it looks very different. This one you can see, I might actually need the torch again, bear with me one sec because you cannot see much right now, but look, you can see how used the step is. They had to put a metal bar because this is thousands of people stepping on it over the years. This one was rebuilt after the Great Fire of London. It existed before, but it was rebuilt in 1667, and it looks inside pretty much the same as it would have at the time. So it's definitely almost like a movie set, when you step in there. There's a long list of monarchs under which they've operated, and so from James the Second all the way down to Charles the Third. And hopefully that's not the end. Hopefully we'll go all the way down to the floor. And the pub, it's also, they used to have a famous resident as well. Well, they used to have a lot of famous visitors, from Mark Twain's to Dickens and all that. But in the 20s, they also had a parrot, Polly the parrot. Polly was a very famous parrot because apparently it would repeat stuff they overheard, and Polly could swear in 9 different languages. Because the pub was so busy, Eventually, when Polly died in 1926, it was all over the press, all the way down to even China, would you believe? But when you live on Fleet Street, it's not that difficult to end up in the newspaper. Anyway, there was a little fire in the pub in 1962. Nothing really bad, but as the fire destroyed a bit of the wall over the fireplace, they found some very, very naughty tiles, like bathroom tiles. Let me show you. Now, I don't want to be accused of showing you pornography, so if you don't want to see any naughty tiles, close your eyes. So that's what they found. So they basically found evidence that there used to be a brothel up there, Back in the day, it wasn't that uncommon to have a brothel above the pubs or above the coffee houses or anything. So you can see part of probably 17th or 18th century brothels deco. Right, let me remove the naughty tiles and let me show you. I told you I was going to show you Mary Queen of Scots, but there's a truck, so I cannot. Let me try it on this side. At least no one can run into me. I can go on the street because there's a truck anyway. There we go. There she is. That's Mary Queen of Scots up there. You might wonder why, because the building is not that old. It's from, I think it's 1905. That's because it was a Scottish insurance company. The architect was Scottish, and he was a great fan of Mary Queen of Scots. So there she is, only just 200 yards down from her sworn enemy, Queen Elizabeth I. She was also, of course, she's been fighting for her innocence. So it's quite interesting that she's so close to the Royal Court of Justice, because she had a big fight with the justice herself, because she was famously beheaded and, well, most people believe innocent, but who knows. Anyway, there's another lady that lived around here. that the regulars of my tours would know about. It is Mary Ann Nichols, or Polly Nichols, the first Ripper victim. Well, the first of the canonical fives. She was the daughter of a blacksmith right here on Shoe Lane. She was born. Let me show you Shoe Lane. I'll show you. There's not much to see, but I'll show you the sign. So she was born down here. Polly was actually fairly lucky for a girl of her time. She was educated. She stayed in school until the age of 15. And that's probably one of the advantages of being living on the street of ink. It's that you've got access to a lot of reading materials and stuff. And she had a difficult childhood. She lived in a very poor lodging with her mum and dad and sibling. But her mum died out of tuberculosis. So did her little brother. You know, at the time, a lot of families were contaminating themselves, because a lot of them lived in very cramped little accommodations. And sadly, mothers in this case, the mother literally contaminated and the child died as well. So she had a difficult childhood. Then she married William Nichols. William was heraldic painter. He would paint the armories on the cabs, on the horse and carriages. So she married William right here in this church. This is St. Bride's. Oops, sorry, I don't like this gimbal. I don't like it. It's moving. It's not me. It's the gimbal going mad. So this is St. Bride's. It's allegedly the church that would have inspired the wedding cake. I think I've got a little photo. You don't maybe see much at night, but let me show you what it looks like at daytime. So it's a little legend. It's probably not true, but it is. I'm not moving. The gimbal is moving on its own. It is said that there was a baker around here that inspired the wedding cake from the church. It might have been exaggerated, but yeah, exactly. Naughty gimbal. But I knew the model wasn't as good. Well, I didn't know. I asked ChatGPT. I was like, compare this gimbal to this one. And ChatGPT told me that it wasn't going to be as good. But I was like, I'm going to try anyway. It's fine. I'm only going to lose the money of the transport fee, the delivery, and I'll have to add about 10 quid. But I need the Osmo 3. Anyway, see the pub across the street there? The Old Bell. It's also a fairly old pub. Well, it was built right after the Great Fire of London, because what happened is Christopher Rains built it for the workers that were rebuilding the church, St. Bride's. So another haunted gimbal, exactly. Another cool pub. It was the site of an interesting a little drama, really, in the 50s. What happened is that there was a journalist that drank in there. His name was Eric Tullet in 1951. So we are at the very, very beginning of the Cold War. And Eric probably had a few too many. The next morning, there's the barmaid. She found a little notebook on the floor. She picked it up and she was going to put it with the lost items, but she opened it and she could see codes, Moscow, Russia, cryptid, and she was like, she decided to give it to the police just in case. And the police opened it and they were like, oh, code, Russia, Moscow. So they gave it to the MI5. It turned out that Eric had a scoop. He wanted to reveal to the public the existence of the GCHQ. Hold on. Government Communication Headquarters. Yeah, GCHQ. That was a new department. The government had just created a new department to try to decode those Russian codes, But they didn't want the public to know. Eventually, they contacted Eric and they were like, we've got your little notebook. They did allow him to publish a little bit about it, but not the full story. Oh, I forgot, I wanted to show you a little plaque here. There's a little plaque for the author of King Kong. There is Edgar Wallace. Now, let's go and see our final Snoopy of the night. In the distance, by the way, I didn't mention it, but you probably know, this is, of course, St. Paul's Cathedral. And the bells are belling, the bells are ringing, so it's probably 11 o'clock. And my bicycle is still here. The yellow one, that's mine, so it's a good sign when it's still here. Now, when you see the bicycle, you know we are getting towards the end of the tour. But we need to go and have a little look at our last Snoopy. And also a little bit, probably the last Christmas lights we'll see together, because they'll be removing them very soon. I've got a tour, I'm taking you to Soho next weekend, but I think usually the lights are up until the 11th. Oh, they might still be there next Sunday, we'll see. Anyway, here is Snoopy. Some of you might remember we've seen a few of the Snoopies the other day anyway, when we did the Christmas murders. So this is our last Snoopy today. They'll be removed, I think it's on the 90s, the 19 that the Snoopies are going to be removed. This one is quite cool as well, a bit more, maybe a bit more basic compared to the other one, but very nice as well. Right, this is gonna be the end of the tour. Let me know in the chat if you have any questions about anything before we go. You're gonna miss the Christmas lights, Ronnie? Well, don't worry, only 12 months to wait. Well, 11 now, because they start in November, don't they? Anyway, let me flip this camera around and let me know if you have any questions before we go. Thank you for coming today. It's always a pleasure to have you along. If you want to see a bit more of me, next Sunday, we're going to Soho. We'll talk about Chevalier d'Eon and a few murders as well. And the week after that, I'm taking you to Madrid, because I'll be on a stopover in Madrid. And I'll be doing quite a lot of scheduling this week, so you'll see some exciting stuff coming up. Thanks, Pauline. Thanks very much for your tips. If any of you dropped me a little tip on PayPal or buy me a coffee, that's very much appreciated as well. Deborah is asking, how do you do PayPal? At the top of the chat, there should be a PayPal link, a message from me that's highlighted. If you don't see it, it's also in the description of the tour. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Ronnie. Thanks, everyone. If any of you were completely new to me, if you've made it that far into the video, you probably want to be subscribing. The best way not to miss those live sessions is it's to subscribe, because then if you hit the little notification bell, you can get notified when I go live, and then, because it's always much more fun to be with us in the chat. You can always watch the replay, but it's I think it's more fun to be in the chat. And well, at least my gimbal is saying red for the battery, but at least it's not died before the end of the tour, so that's always a plus. But still, I don't like it. It's moving all over the place and the battery is no good. So I'm gonna go back to the shop. I've already been to the shop. They did say they can give me a refund, but then I'll have to order one more, and I don't have time because I'm going away. I don't have time to wait for a new one, so I have to cycle all the way to Lewisham to a shop that has the one I want. Because I always buy them secondhand because they're still warranted anyway, so it's It's a bit cheaper, but usually they don't send me the wrong item. Anyway, thank you guys for coming today. It's always a pleasure to have so many of you along. If you want to see a bit more of me, make sure you subscribe, and hopefully I'll see a lot of you next Sunday. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone. Thanks Amanda. Thanks Pisas. Thanks She Who Must Be Loved. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye. I'll have a warm something. Once I get home, I still need to cycle all the way home. So my fingers are going to be freezing on the bicycle. But then I'll have a warm something. Whatever that is. Probably just a tea. But yeah. Anyway, see you later.